You see the four best crews in the game, I'm in them. If you don't like me.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Opinionated Pool. Now in this video I just wanted to cover the playoffs, so focusing on Championship, League 1 and League 2. So the teams I think are going to go up or are going to do well in the playoffs in the semi-finals, and the teams I think that could completely bottle it. So just like the last video, I'm going to get straight into it for the Championship, League 1 and League 2 playoffs. Now starting off the Championship, now this Friday it's Brighton v Sheffield Wednesday, and then Saturday it's Hull, Derby v Hull. And then obviously the second leg to take place on the Monday and the Tuesday of next week. Now the four teams, Sheffield Wednesday, Brighton, Derby and Hull. I was very indecisive at first thinking about it, who's going to go up, who could win and who could have the glory of the Premier League. And it's very, very difficult because in the past, now after looking for a few stats, it's clear that third place, which is where Brighton finished, they have the lowest, it's hard to explain, but the number of teams that have finished third in the past, they have, that's the lowest figure of the teams that have gone into the Premier League. So it's always been 4th, 5th and 6th, and the Championship have been the most successful in going up into the Premier League from the playoffs. And just this season, I actually have a really strong feeling Sheffield Wednesday might pull it off. I think I've given them a lot of stick in the past, especially on social media. But in terms of improvement as a team, with a manager and players who aren't the most talented out of Hull, Brighton and Derby, they've done exceptionally well, and they've been, I think, a lot more consistent in teams like Hull, Derby and Hull possibly have the best teams on paper. They spent a lot of money in the past on these teams. Hull have been in the Premier League, comes to the Championship, it's a bit like a yo-yo really. And I think Sheffield Wednesday, in terms of the team that deserve it, I think they actually do deserve it. I mean, you could argue that Brighton deserve it as well because they were very close to getting promoted. They lost to Middlesbrough. Now, ideally, I'd love Brighton to stay in the Championship just purely for the away game next season. I think Sheffield Wednesday, they've had a lot of time away from the Premier League, and I think it'd be great if they actually went up. I mean, they're not the best team in the Championship. I mean, not the sort of the biggest club in Yorkshire, but they certainly are a big side. They are a big club in terms of their history. I mean, they haven't achieved much, but they've always been up and around the Championship and Premier League. They've had their bad times in the past, like most clubs. But I think they could pull it off. They have a great fan base. I mean, most Championship clubs around the country don't have the best home fans. Always normally sort of a dead atmosphere from my experience from going to these away grounds. But I think in terms of sort of away fans this season I've seen, I think Derby and Sheffield Wednesday have really good away fans. In terms of the team that had a lot of disappointment in the past, I think Sheffield Wednesday, they definitely, I think, deserve some glory, and I think they could pull it off. Derby, now they spent a lot of money this season in the Championship. They got the likes of Vyman in, Blackman. They also signed, I think his name is Camara, for sort of 8 million. Also Butterfield from Huddersfield. So they spent a lot of money and they came 5th this season. So that under Paul Clement, they could have possibly got automatics, but then they sacked him, and then they did this thing which they did last season where they completely bottled it. Let's have a little look back at how that went down, Darren Bent. So yeah, Darren Bent missed a penalty last season against Reading at home, and Reading went on to win that 3-0, and Brentford got playoffs. It also happened, I think, in 2013 when a certain character, no, not 2013, it actually happened in 2014 when Fulham got relegated from the Premier League, and it was the sucker punch at QPR, went up and beat Derby in the last minute, Bobby Zamora. Thanks Derby for this.
Puts it into an area, Keogh, Zamora! Unbelievable!
So yeah, Derby completely bottled it. So I think that's my Championship prediction. I think Hull have a very strong chance. I think, but in terms of the past and looking at the history of sort of teams that have finished sort of 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, it's looking very likely that whoever's sort of 5th or 6th could go up. And that's exactly where Sheffield Wednesday finished. They finished 6th and Derby finished 5th. And I think the final between those two teams, I just think Derby are going to bottle it for the 3rd year in a row. Moving on to League 1, and this week we're going to be seeing Barnsley, Walsall, Bradford and Millwall, so those 4 teams. Now, out of the 4 teams, ideally I'd love to see Barnsley go back up to the Championship. I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned this channel before that I just have some weird obsession with Barnsley. I mean, everyone has their team. Some people like Southend, and some people like Spurs or City, or some people like Atletico. Some people love the Chinese teams or the Australian teams. Everyone has a little second team that they want to do well, and mine happens to be Barnsley. You know, some might think it's a pointless team in Yorkshire, but you know, it's just Barnsley for the fun of it. I'd love to see them go up. Bradford and Mill. I mean, Mill are just. They're. I mean, ideally, if they did go up to back into the Championship, it would be good for an away day, as it's a London fixture. I mean, it would be a bit cheaper. But you know, Bradford and then also Walsall. I think Walsall, they've had a fantastic season. They have a lot of sort of young, good talent that are coming through that will probably be picked up by a lot of Championship and potentially sort of lower Premier League sides. I mean, in terms of a side that actually probably deserve it, is Walsall. And if they went up, then fair play, another team in the Midlands to come up. But ideally, I'd love to see Barnsley come up into the Championship. You know, they just won the Johnson Pate Trophy. They have some good players, sort of likes of Will, Hamill, Horien. You know, they have a good squad, and I think it would do well in the Championship. Bradford quite inconsistent in the Championship. Well, they're quite inconsistent in League One. They've had some really good days in the past, and they got to the Carling Cup final, the Capital One final a few years back, and lost to Swansea. They beat Arsenal also in the same year in the Cup. They also got promoted from League Two to League One. So they've had some really good seasons in the past. You know, they've had some good glory days, as you say, in recent years. So if they went up, then that'd be also a good achievement. But I personally love to see Barnsley. Moving on to League Two. Now tonight it's Portsmouth v Plymouth at about 7:30. So this video, as I'm recording, is sort of about 6:15. So that game's going to be kicking off soon. Also in the League Two playoffs, we're going to be having AFC Wimbledon v Accrington. Now, out of those 4 teams, either Portsmouth or AFC Wimbledon, I'd love to go up. Portsmouth for the fact that they've had so much trouble and financial difficulty over the last 3 years, or sort of 3 or 4 years. You know, they won the FA Cup, but you know they also got to the final of the Cup, I think, the year after or 2 years after. And you know, they've suffered a lot of trouble over the years financially, and it's been horrible for fans to see that, especially, you know, local Portsmouth fans who actually saved the club from administration, which was fantastic. And I think if they got to League One, it'd be a great achievement especially for the fans who've done so much work to get the club back to where it is. You know, they were actually an established or a decent Premier League club. They did play in the UEFA Cup as well against the likes of AC Milan. In terms of AFC Wimbledon, I mean, as a neutral, they're just a really likeable club. You know, formed by the fans, funded by the fans, run by the fans. You know, they got to play Liverpool in the FA Cup, which was brilliant for them. Sort of recreating those memories from the sort of the 70s and 80s. So it'd be great if AFC came into League One. They'd also be in the same division as their rivals and scumbags, MK Dons. So that'd be brilliant to see next season. That'd be a really good rivalry. You know, if AFC won against MK in League One, well, that'd be probably their best achievement in recent years. So I have nothing against Accrington Stanley. Nothing against Plymouth, but I just feel, for me, it'd be great to see Portsmouth AFC come to League One, because I think they deserve it for sort of the trouble that they've had over for Portsmouth the last 5 years, and for sort of AFC Wimbledon the last 10 years. They've done so much work to get to where they are, and also Accrington Stanley have let me down on 4 or 5 bets this season, so fuck you. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this video. Once again, apologies it's long, and I apologise for saying that every single video, but I just feel that I do my best to try and cut it down. But yeah, that was just my playoff predictions for the Championship, League One and League Two. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. This is the Opinionated Paul signing out. Have a good one.